Hello friends, this is Olga from Olga's Flavor Factory. Today I'm taking you along with me as I'm going to do my meal prepping for the week. I did a blog post about this not too long ago, and today I'm going to show you exactly what I mean when I wrote everything that I did. So meal prepping has been life-changing for me. It is such a time saver and it saves on a lot of dishes, which is probably the most important thing for me. And I know that most of you guys are busy just like I am, and we don't have a lot of time or the desire to be cooking in the kitchen for hours every single day. But I, for one, like to have homemade meals. I like to cook from scratch. So this is one way that I do it without spending hours in the kitchen every day. So what I do is I take once a week, I take some time, like an hour or two, and I do as much of the meal prep as I can so that once I'm cooking during the week, each day it only takes me like half an hour to put everything together because all of the chopping, slicing, washing, it's already done. First of all, I'd like to say that if you hear some noise in the background, that's my son. He's playing in the playroom right there, and he's trying to be quiet, but he's only almost 3, so he doesn't really get the concept. And Josh is napping, so we'll try to get as much done as possible before he wakes up. I'm going to start with making some bread, and bread is something I do a lot of times because it's super easy and it's so cheap and it's so much yummier than store-bought bread. So I already poured in warm water, yeast, and sugar in here. And also I just wanted to say quickly that I'm going to put in all of the recipes into the description box and into the blog post. So I'm not going to be telling you all the ingredients and whatever, but I'll have the recipes for you. So I'm going to put this into my bread machine. Now I like to use a bread machine, especially when I'm meal prepping, just because I can have this, going. I don't have to think about it. It's in the background. And my parents actually gave me this bread machine for Christmas the first year that Sergi and I were married. So that's kind of cool. And I also make like other yeast bread doughs in here. It's really great. It does such a good job and it stays warm in there. So now I'm just adding oil. And then I'm just going to add flour and salt. Turn it on, and that's that. So as you can see, this is like so easy. Literally takes me just a couple of minutes to throw everything into the bread machine, and then I just have to turn it on, and that's it. And then all I have to do is put it into the bread pan later. Lastly, I'm going to sprinkle in some salt and turn it on. Next, I'm going to make a couple other things that we're going to be eating throughout the week. First, this sweet potato. I'm going to steam it. And that's going to be for my son Josh for lunch, his snacks throughout the week. He loves sweet potatoes. It's really easy to have it just cooked up, and then all you have to do is heat it up a little bit, and that's it. So I added some water to the bottom of this pot, just enough to cover the bottom, not enough to like you reach the actual steaming basket. So I'm going to put this on the stove and get it cooking. Going to cover it, bring it to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, I'll reduce it to a low simmer and cook it until it's tender all the way through. Next, I'm going to be prepping something really fun, cookie dough. We're going to be baking some Christmas cookies this week, and I know that I can make this cookie dough ahead of time, and I'm going to keep it in the refrigerator, and it's going to be so much easier to just, have the dough ready when I'm going to be baking cookies. So I'm going to be making regaliki. These are so good. I'm going to be baking them with poppy seed filling. So this recipe is really easy. It's just cream cheese, butter, egg yolk, water, and flour. That's it. And a little salt. I always add salt to anything that I bake. I think it tastes so much better. And can we just say how good my son is being? He is amazing. He's totally trying to be quiet. It's like so cute. So I'm just gonna cream the butter and the cream cheese together until they're smooth. And then I'm gonna add the egg yolk and the water. This is such an awesome cookie dough. It's like really tender. I really, really like it. And I use it for a lot of different things, not just the galiki. So I just needed half of a stick for that. I'm gonna cream it together. Okay, so now I'm just scraping down the sides of the bowl, and I'm going to add an egg yolk and 2 tablespoons of water. And cream it together again. Okay, flour, 2 cups of flour. And like I said, I'm gonna have the recipe for you guys. Oh, got the salt, can't forget the salt. Okay, it's done. You don't want to over mix it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to wrap it in parchment paper. Okay, and this dough needs to be chilled anyway. Like, you can't just make this and start rolling out. It's like super sticky. So it needs to be chilled. This is a big help because when I'm making cookies, I don't have to wait for it to chill because it's already cold. So I'm just shaping it into like a disc. And I'm going to wrap it up in this parchment paper and stick it in my refrigerator. I'm going to put it inside of a freezer bag, like a Ziploc bag, just so that it's protected from the smells of the fridge, if you know what I mean. I like to keep breakfast super, super simple. So oatmeal, my boys love it, and I'm gonna be making it in the Instant Pot. So I like to make like a big batch. So I'm gonna be putting in 1 cup. This is actually a 3/4 cup measuring cup. My other one is dirty, so I'm just going to do a little bit more. Add the oatmeal in, and then I'm gonna be adding 1 cup of milk and 2 cups of water to it. I love my Instant Pot, I use it so much. You can ask my husband. So then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, and that's it. I'm gonna cook it on high pressure for 30 minutes. I'm gonna start by chopping a bunch of onions, and I guess I really like onions in my food because I sure use them a lot. So I'm gonna be using these for soup and for a chicken dish that I'm making. So I'm gonna start by chopping all these onions. Now, I personally prefer to use a plastic cutting board for chopping onions because, I don't know about you, but the smell still stays there no matter what you do. So I use a plastic cutting board for onions. And I'm gonna show you my trick for cutting onions. I learned this from Alton Brown on his cooking show back in the day when I spent a lot of time watching his show Good Eats. So this is what you do. You cut the onion in half, and then you make parallel cuts down the onion. And I like my onions really small. If you don't, then you can make them even smaller, which would be, larger, which would be even easier. So once you get to the middle, you keep it straight. And then as you're going down, you're making those cuts at a diagonal. So as you can see, I made those cuts like this. And you don't need to be cutting like that. I don't know about you, but when I do it, the whole onion comes apart. Everything is going all over the place. This is so easy. Now watch this. You just cut across, the onion stays together. Yeah, by the way, don't cut it all the way through at this end. Look, it stays together. It's perfect. And look at how finely cut that is. And yes, I do cut all the way to the very end. I like to say that I'm very frugal. So I'm chopping these onions for 2 soups. I'm going to be making tomato soup and barley soup. And then I'm going to be using it for this onion. I'm going to use it for a salad and for salsa. And also I'm going to be using onion for chicken scampi with vegetables. So I like to store onions in mason jars because no matter what you do, onions have such a strong odor that they're gonna smell up everything in your refrigerator. When you use mason jars, it's an airtight seal. That way your whole refrigerator is not gonna smell like onions. So I have these labeled specifically for onions because the lids are gonna smell like onions forever. They smell like onions. But that's fine because I use them for onions. Okay, so these onions are finely chopped, and I'm going to be using these for soups, for 2 different soups. And this is going to be used for salad and for chicken scampi with vegetables. These are sliced onions. And then I have a little bit of sliced red onion that I'm going to use for salsa. Next up are mushroom soup. So I'm going to slice these mushrooms and I'm going to chop the potato. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the best parts about meal prepping is that you're doing so much of the tedious, time-consuming work, and you're doing it all at once. So what I like to do is I like to either listen to some podcasts or watch a movie while I'm doing it. And I do this typically in the evenings or on the weekends when my husband is home and he'll watch the boys, because, you know, this kind of work is something that I can do ahead of time, and he can watch the boys so that I can get, you know, stay focused and get it all done at the same time. One of the other things that I really like about meal prepping is that, see, I chopped onions for like 4 different meals, I think. And I peeled them all at the same time. I chopped them all on one cutting board with one knife, so that cuts down on dishes, because if I didn't do it all in advance, I'd be washing the same cutting board 4 times this week. Now I'm only doing it once. Another benefit is that it forces me to be more organized and to save more money, because I have to get my act together, decide what I'm going to be cooking that week. I have to buy the groceries, so it really saves a lot of time and money. Plus, you know, if you don't feel like cooking one night, or maybe you don't feel good, your husband, or if you have older kids or something, you can tell them what to do, and most of the prep work is done, so it makes it easier on them too. Mushrooms are done. I'm gonna cover them up. Now potatoes are gonna get brown, so you need to cover them with water, and that's it, no big deal. They're covered with water, they're not gonna turn brown on you. So I like potatoes to be pretty small in soup. My parents have a really big property, 100 acres, and they have like a forest, and there's wild mushrooms growing there. Now, don't ever go picking mushrooms if you don't know what you're doing, but she knows what she's doing. So we would go in the forest foraging for mushrooms. Oh wow, they're so much better than, like, you know, store-bought mushrooms, but you know, use what you got. So what I like to use to bring up that mushroom flavor is to use dry mushrooms. Wow, they bring up the taste so much. And I love porcini mushrooms. They really have that mushroomy flavor. So I like to put them into a lot of different things. But soup, so good. And another great thing that I found is that Trader Joe's has frozen porcini mushrooms. Those are so yummy. So I add those if I have them. Soup with those mushrooms is really, really good. And I already have chicken broth in my freezer. I always keep it stocked. Or vegetable broth. I make a whole bunch of it. Like, I actually specifically bought like a giant 16-quart stock pot that I make chicken broth in it. I make a whole bunch of it and I freeze it, and then I have it for lots and lots of different foods. So I'll be using that for the soups, I'll be using that for the chicken scampi. I'll probably use it for something else that I can't think of right now. But anyway, the potatoes are chopped. I'm going to cover them up with water. Okay, the oatmeal is done. I released the pressure. Now I'm going to check it out. Okay, so it's cooked. And it's a little runny because it's gonna soak in the liquid even more as it stands, and it's gonna get much thicker. Already, as I'm mixing it, it's already getting a little thicker. So I don't add anything to the oatmeal right now. I'll usually add just maple syrup to it, or berries like blueberries or whatever, some cinnamon sometimes, whatever we have in the house, like bananas. Fresh bananas are great, and other berries or apples, butternut squash. So, you know, I add whatever the mood strikes me at the moment. One of the meals that I'm going to be making this week is chicken scampi, so I'm going to be cutting bell pepper for it. And check out this way of cutting bell pepper. So I go all the way around like this, and I'm cutting away the sides, and at the same time I'm cutting away the seeds and this part. It's really cool. Watch this. And it's gonna be so much easier to chop the bell peppers because it makes them flat. And then I just go like this, and I'm still gonna get this too. This part. I don't waste anything. There you go. Garbage. Done. And I already sliced up the onion for this dish, and I'm just going to add fresh tomatoes to it later. And I don't usually prep meat in advance. Obviously it's gonna spoil, and I don't like to thaw meat and then freeze it. So I will typically look at my menu plan, and if I have the chicken scampi for tomorrow, I'll take out the chicken and I'll either prep it the night before or in the morning. Another thing I like to do with meat is when I bring meat home from the store, like say I buy a big bulk package of chicken drumsticks, and I like to use chicken drumsticks for, roasting them in the oven, and I make soup a lot with using chicken drumsticks. So what I do is I divide that big package right when I come home from the store. I'll divide it into 2 chicken drumsticks or 3 for soup into a little baggie, and then I'll put another portion of chicken drumsticks into another bag for roasting in the oven. So I'll put enough for our family into one bag, and I'll know that that's what I'm going to use it for. I don't think it's a good idea to be thawing and freezing meat more than once, so that way when I get home from the store I divide it up. And like I said, I'll divide it up into the meals that I'm going to be making with. If I'm not sure what I'm going to be making with the chicken drumsticks, I'll divide it up into 2 or 3 pieces per bag. That way I can always take out as much as I need, whether it's for soup or a bigger meal, or maybe we have company and I'm cooking more of it. Zucchini is a really easy side dish that I like to make a lot. I always have it on hand for either making zucchini fritters in the morning or lunch for my kids and I. But zucchini roasted in the oven is so good, like a side dish or grilled. This week I'm gonna just roast some in the oven. So I'm just gonna cut it up. And it'll be really easy to just toss it together with some oil, salt and pepper, garlic, and into the oven it goes. And sometimes I'll add fresh tomatoes to it too, or bell peppers. It's really great. I mentioned tomatoes several times already, and I don't usually prep those in advance. There's very few things that I make with tomatoes that I do in advance, because tomatoes are going to get watery and wilted. Just not good. So those are not something you can prep in advance. So basically what I do prep in advance is things that are not going to change in structure and quality as the week goes by. I'm going to be making a cabbage, cucumber, corn salad this week. So I'm going to chop up the cabbage, and this is cabbage. Let's take a moment to talk about cabbage. Cabbage is great to make in advance. So you can shred the cabbage. You can use it in salads, in soups, and it stays really, really well in the refrigerator. I mean, you've seen the mixes of coleslaw in the refrigerated section of the store, right? And that's another tip. Go to your store and walk around and look and see what they have prepped. Right now, there's so much prepped food in the grocery stores, and that is just a really great idea. A really great way for you to go and get ideas of what you can prep in advance at home, because it's going to be so much cheaper for you to do it yourself. A lot of times I'll, shred up the whole cabbage head and I'll use it to make several different salads. I'll make soup out of it in several different soups. Like for example, I'll make schi and borscht and they both have cabbage in them. But it's not like you're eating like cabbage all week long. It doesn't feel that way. But you're getting all that prep work done in advance. Okay, cabbage is done. Look at this, all done. So as I was saying, on the day that I'm gonna make the salad, I'm just gonna dump this bag into a bowl, add the corn to it that I'm gonna slice up right now. I love fresh corn in this salad, but you can use canned corn too. So, and then I'm just gonna add the cucumber, and I'm also gonna add an apple, but I'm gonna add those the day of because, they're better fresh. That's done. Okay, moving on to the corn. This is also for the salad. So actually I'm gonna do it right in here. Okay, so I'm cutting it off the cob. Okay, let's check this sweet potato. Perfect, it's done. Turn off the heat, let it cool off a little bit. And then I'm just gonna store it in the fridge, like I said, and just mash it up a bit, heat it up whenever I need a quick lunch or snack for Josh. Okay, next thing on the list is seasoned breadcrumbs, and I'm using panko breadcrumbs. I love these because they're so crispy. So I add a bunch of seasonings to it and Parmesan cheese. I think making your own homemade breadcrumbs, seasoned ones, it just tastes so much better. So what I add to it is Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna grate that in. And then I also add this onion salt from Trader Joe's. Is really, really good. I add it to so many things. And this, let me see. It's the chicken grilling seasons. Anyway, it's really good. It has a really great combination of lots of dry herbs. I think it tastes phenomenal. So I'll add a bunch of that. And I'm gonna be using these breadcrumbs for chicken scampi, breaded chicken scampi. It is so delicious, you guys. It's definitely a top for our meals in the family. So there's that, and I'm gonna add garlic. This is just garlic, it's not like garlic salt. And more onion powder. And some ground black pepper. If I was making this dish like tomorrow, then I would add fresh herbs to it as well, but since I'm not, I'm just going to add it, later on in the week. Okay, we got it seasoned. I'll add a little salt to it too, and some Parmesan cheese. This is like one of my favorite tools in the kitchen. I use it all the time for so many different things. For lemon zest, for cheese. I love how finely it grates everything. Even garlic sometimes. And you can make these breadcrumbs in advance and just store them in your pantry. That's what I do a lot of times, but that's all the breadcrumbs that I had. If I had more, I'd make like a big batch of it, keep it in my pantry, and makes it easy. And I sometimes even add these seasoned breadcrumbs to like meatballs instead of just plain breadcrumbs. Okay, that should be enough cheese. Looks like somebody bit the cheese. Somebody with really crooked teeth. Toss, toss, all done. While I was getting everything else prepped, the bread is risen twice, I think. I think it rises twice in the bread machine. And now I'm going to put it into this bread pan and it's gonna rise, and then I'm gonna bake it. So I pull out the bread. This would be so much easier if I would put it on the counter, but I don't wanna wash the counter. So I do it like this. I like smush it, knead it in my hands, and then I roll it up really tightly, like this, because it's gonna have a much better shape if you roll it. and it's gonna rise better. Then you put it into the bread loaf, the bread pan. You smush it down a little bit like this, and as it rises, it's gonna fill up these gaps. Okay, we're almost done. I'm gonna do the last thing, and I'm gonna be making tomato salsa from canned tomatoes. I really like using fresh tomatoes much better, but tomatoes aren't in season right now, so canned tomatoes are gonna be just fine, and actually they're gonna taste really good. And I've recently started using these sweet onion tomatoes, diced tomatoes with sweet onion. I don't know, it tastes really, really good, at least I think so. And I'm going to make this salsa, and I'm gonna use it for our burrito bowl dinner. We're gonna eat that with some rice and some other great toppings. Grilled, I don't know if we're gonna grill or I'm gonna roast the chicken. Either way. Now I use the liquid too, but if you don't want to, you can drain the liquid. I like it. I like mine to be a little loose. Okay, I'm gonna add some minced garlic, and I only like to use a little bit if I'm using raw garlic. I don't like it to be too overpowering. And usually I add either a jalapeno or a poblano pepper to salsa, but today I'm gonna use this Hatch Valley salsa. It has that flavor of the peppers. It's kind of spicy. It's really good. I really like it. I'm gonna use it to marinate the chicken, actually, give it that flavor. So add as much or as little as you want, depending on the heat level. We're not big heat lovers, so I'm not gonna add too much, just to get that flavor. And some salt. Ground black pepper. I love the flavor that black pepper gives to food, I really do. So there's that, and a little bit of sugar, actually, just a little pinch. And for cilantro, these stems, they break down really well. They're very soft, so you can add them too. Like rosemary or thyme, you don't want to do that, but for cilantro, it works great. So for the burrito bowls dinner, I'm going to marinate chicken thighs in some cilantro, some of this salsa, salt, pepper, olive oil, garlic, and I'm going to marinate it either the night before or in the morning. And then my husband will either grill it when he gets home from work, or I'm going to roast it in the oven depending on what's going on that day. And it's really, really yummy. And then we just slice up the chicken, put it over rice, and then we serve it with avocado or guacamole, tomatoes, or I make salsa, corn, grated cheese, so many different topping options. It's a really, really great dinner option. We love it. And I actually make this for company a lot. So you don't have to chop the cilantro this fine. I just got carried away because I was talking to you guys. I don't like the salsa to be too runny, so that's why I chop the cilantro. And then I chop the onion and the garlic, so that way I only pulse it a few times and it's not too soupy. Perfect. I mean, it's really fine as it is because the tomatoes were diced. Perfect. So the salsa, I also store it in the mason jars because it has the fresh onions and garlic in it. So anything that has like a really strong odor, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, not so much, but a little bit. Those kinds of things I put either in a mason jar, or if it's cauliflower, I'll cover it up with plastic wrap and then put the lid on it. So that way my fridge stays fresh smelling. Oh man, I love, love, love salsa, you guys. So good. My husband is not as much of a fan as I am, but he puts up with it. I mean, seriously, how cool is this? I took like, how long have we been doing this? Not even 2 hours. It's been like an hour and a half. And we've already got so much prep work done, and we're filming, so obviously it's taking way longer than usual. So this is something else that I do with fresh herbs to keep them fresh longer. And also, I find that I use them more often when they're already washed and ready to go. So I just wash them, and they're like just a little bit damp, and then I spread them out on a paper towel. So this is parsley and cilantro. And I have parsley in the first part of the paper towel and cilantro in the second part. And I'm just going to roll it up, starting from here, just like this, loosely. And then I'm going to keep it in a bag. Keep it in the refrigerator. First of all, this keeps them from wilting and spoiling faster, and it also helps me use them more often because I know they're already washed, and they chop a lot better when they're like this than when they're just like all sopping wet when you just wash them. So it's really awesome. This is a really great tip. If I have a ton of herbs and I'm not going to use them up in a week, then I'll chop it up finely and I'll put it into my freezer. And it tastes really great in food when you add frozen herbs like that. Sorry, my kids are in the background. Josh is awake, so they're talking to each other, but we're almost done. So that's what I do with fresh herbs. So let's do a quick recap of everything that I did today. So first, bread. So the bread is done. It's just gonna finish rising and I'm gonna bake it. And I make sandwiches for my husband with it, for myself, toast, I eat it with soup, you know. And then this sweet potato, I steamed it for my son Josh, and this is probably gonna be about 3 snack/lunch type of things for him. So that's that. This is salsa that I'm going to be using for burrito bowls and also to eat with an omelet or just have as a snack with a quesadilla. This corn and cabbage are going to be for a salad. So I cut the corn off the cob, the cabbage I shredded. The zucchini I cut into chunks and I'm just going to roast it in the oven. This is oatmeal. It still needs to cool a little bit more. So this is going to be breakfast for the boys. The mushrooms is going to be for mushroom barley soup. And the potatoes I cut and I cover them with water. That's going to be for the soup. And then I chopped and sliced some onions for soup and for chicken scampi. Washed and stored the fresh herbs so they stay fresh longer and easier to use. This is cookie dough I'm going to make later on this week. These are seasoned breadcrumbs that I'm going to make chicken scampi out of. And this is bell pepper that's going to go with the chicken scampi meal. I hope you guys found this helpful, and leave your questions for me, and maybe next time if I do another meal prep video, I'll answer them in more detail, or I'll answer them in the comments also. Anything else I can be more helpful for you, I'd love to do that. And I'm just gonna put all of this away, clean up the kitchen, and go have a really fun night with my family. Hope you guys have a great week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.